Hello and welcome to the Story Engine podcast. My name is Kyle Gray, and today on the show we have Kyle Leavitt. Today we're going to be talking about his software Customer Hub and how it creates freedom in your life, in your business, with your team, with your systems, so that you can spend less time grinding hard and more time with your family. Kyle, tell us why we should listen to the episode today.
Well, I shared a little bit in this episode about my personal journey with finding more freedom in my life. I think financial freedom and specifically time freedom is something that's important to every entrepreneur, and everyone wants more of it. And in this episode, you helped me to tell that story and help people connect to the ways that they can create more time and freedom through our software, and by discovering what it is that they're actually after and being laser focused on achieving that and saying no to as many things as they can otherwise.
Awesome. Let's dive into it. Kyle Leavitt, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
I am really excited to have you here today. You are working in one of the most popular and desirable places, or you offer something that most entrepreneurs, most coaches want, and it's a membership or recurring revenue, or what the most elusive and salacious word or two words that I know, passive income. And I'm
Yeah.
so excited to be diving into this with you today. But to start us off, will you introduce yourself to the audience by telling us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. As you said, I'm currently heading up Customer Hub, which is a digital products platform for really, it's best suited for beginning entrepreneurs, helps them get off the ground and productize their expertise, package it up in a way they can sell it, generate recurring revenue, generate online sales and such. And we are really serving the goal of helping to liberate people from their coaching, consulting, and service businesses. Like, a lot of times when people, not a lot, almost all the times when people start a business, entrepreneurs, their goal is to make money, create freedom for themselves. Really, they're usually after financial and time freedom. And business ownership doesn't really lend itself very well to time freedom, especially in many cases. And so, um, what begins as a really exciting, liberating experience for most entrepreneurs often ends in just slavery to your business versus slavery to a boss in corporate America, but slavery nonetheless. And so we seek to liberate entrepreneurs by allowing them to scale and sell in new ways that don't demand so much of their time and energy. And we're a small company, and we're able to serve our clients in unique ways because we're small. We can pivot, we can engage directly with them, and we can listen to their feedback and make adjustments to what we're delivering for them much more quickly. So that's what we're about, and that's what I'm doing. I'm also personally a family man. Got a couple of daughters off in college, and then three little ones, and so I'm sending kids off to college and changing diapers and running a business simultaneously. And it's a lot of fun and a lot of work, but I love it.
Absolutely. And we're here to change more diapers. That's what we want to do. We don't want to be sending more emails or going on more calls. What Customer Hub is about is making sure that you're there to change the diaper.
Exactly. That's right.
I think that's a beautiful thing. And when you say liberation, this is a pattern I see. It's almost as universal as the hero's journey itself in entrepreneurship. Almost every success path I've ever seen, somebody sets out to create something, to create the freedom that you said, and there's something misaligned somewhere along the line, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's the systems we choose, what we define and what we think success looks like, or the
Yep.
expectations. But somewhere along the line, we realize that the success that we've created, which usually on the outside looks very nice and very desirable, isn't
Mhm.
at all what we thought we were going to create or what we wanted,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
requires this turning point and coming back into alignment of yourself. And I see this play out in many different times in many different places. What is this with your particular customers and the people that you serve? Where do you see this misalignment occurring? Is it in how they fulfill, or what does this look like for you?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of phases. The first one is just in the beginning, it's really just about finding a pathway to make money that gives you freedom to work how you want to work and be doing what it is that you want to be doing. And so that's sort of the first checkbox that people seek to get to, is like, how can I make enough money to like pay my bills, live my life, and like not be subservient to a boss somewhere. Like, I want to do this on my own terms. Um, and a lot of people struggle to get there. Some people get there, but the people that get there then begin the journey of typically scaling, because they then seek freedom with their time. Um, and that's, I think, the big one where most people get tripped up, is they think about more revenue and more money, and what they're actually after, when it really boils down to it, is actually freedom over their time. So sometimes we see people grow really fast that are having success, generating a lot of money, but like they're more enslaved to their business than they ever were before, as they make more money, because now they're growing a big team, they have more responsibilities, they have more customers, and they end up like working 70, 80 hours a week, burning themselves out. And yes, their business is making a lot of money, but they are not achieving the ultimate outcome that they had, which is that liberation. um, so for me, there's that distinction, is like, typically the first thing people think of is like, I need to make more money so that I can have the freedom. And it's actually not that. It's like, how can you make the revenue and money that you want to make, but do it in a way that allows you your flexibility and freedom over your time. And to me, that's the ultimate freedom, is to be able to spend my time how I want to spend it and with whom I want to spend it. And yes, doing nice things and having the money to do those things is a bonus. But ultimately, for me personally, and I think for most entrepreneurs, that's what they're after, is the freedom, the time freedom.
Yeah, it's not something that we examine or measure. And though it is what is most valued, it's rarely what is most discussed. And I
Yeah.
see what you mean. And I've had this too. Once I make enough money, then I'll be able to do these things and solve my problems. Or I have this certain bleeding neck issue in my own personal life or in my business. And once I have enough money, things will finally work out and finally come
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've noticed about myself as somebody who is a particularly high achiever and setting out to do these things is I'll set some kind of goal. I'll set some kind of benchmark. Usually it's I'll make this amount of money or I'll do this. And I'll set out to go and achieve that. And it'll take 3 months, 6 months, whatever the case may be. And by the time I reach that goal, I've already got 3 or 4 other goals that I'm looking forward to that are giving me anxiety about how I'm going to stretch myself to achieve these things, that I don't even notice that I've made it to this
Yeah.
first goal. And I think this kind of movement and philosophy is what ends up leading us to a moment where we wake up and we're overwhelmed with the responsibilities of our work without really ever finding or seeing that we got there in the
Yeah.
first place.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And I think that the skill there that many people are challenged with, and it's because it's um, sort of counterintuitive, is like um, doing more things doesn't equal more success. It's doing fewer things better that make more success. And so, like as an example, I was speaking with one of our customers just yesterday, and she's a coach and she works with people who struggle with addiction. And she has a program that she has created that helps people to learn new ways and constructs through which to see their addiction, to see themselves, to see what's really going on underneath the surface, and ultimately to overcome their addictions. And she started her business as a consultant who would coach who would work one-on-one with her clients, and she would take them through this program. And her first challenge was just getting enough clients to keep her business afloat, which she did. And then she quickly got to a space where it's like, as a coach, she only has so many hours in the day to work with these people. And so there's a ceiling there for most all subject matter experts begin delivering in this way. And that's the way they should be delivering. That's actually the right way to deliver your offering initially, is directly with your customers, because that's the best way to validate that you actually have a valuable offering. You can sell it and you can help people achieve the outcomes that you claim you can. But you very quickly start hitting up against a ceiling of hours in the day that you can spend with your clients. So you either have to charge a lot more money to increase your revenues and maybe work fewer hours, or you have to find new models for delivery of your expertise. And that's where our software comes in for our customers, is it allows them to kind of shift the model towards digital delivery of their expertise in a way that they could essentially scale infinitely to anywhere, anyone across the globe. And it requires them obviously to do some work to productize it and digitize it. But once that's done, they can then even charge less and make more by expanding to a much broader audience and having a much broader reach. So it's both a mindset shift, but also in many cases a model shift that's required to get there.
Yeah, and you're pointing out there's several different stages of evolution of
Mm-hmm.
a business and an entrepreneur. And most of us don't see this or understand this. And most of us just hear, I think, the very early stage messaging, which is very popular, the grind hard, work harder things. And in the early stages, if it's you and you are 100% of the energy, yeah, working harder will get more results to a point.
To a point,
But I
yeah.
think we validate ourselves, and it's probably that hardworking tenacity that gets us to the next stage. But once we are at the next stage, if we really want to scale, that same thing not only is not useful, but oftentimes it's counterproductive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you start adding team, if you start adding systems, sometimes if you work more, that usually means that you're stepping on the toes of the people that you
Yeah.
hired to serve you, which is making it harder for them to do the work that they want to do, which ultimately creates more fires for you to be putting out and perpetuate this
Yeah.
problem more. And
Yeah, I think most of us who own our own businesses can identify with that. I definitely can. It's like I'm the expert in all things in our business, and um, really, in order to scale the business, I have to be in the business of leading and helping other people become the experts and replace the aspects of me in the business that can be replaced, which is pretty much everything except for leading the company. Um, and being okay with it, being done maybe a little bit differently or by somebody differently, maybe even a little bit less effectively than I think I could do it. But ultimately, that's the only way to scale a business.
I see this happen a lot when people come to work with me to write a talk. They start out, they have no time to write a talk. And so we need to make something quickly. But by creating a talk and creating a story, it helps them reconnect with their vision. And through that, allows them to stand in their highest value activities for the
Yes.
first time, which we're really missing out on. Because if we are stepping on our team's toes, then we're not in our lanes, which
Yeah.
for most of us, and at this point of scale that you're talking about, the very best thing you can be doing is either going into the unknown and expanding your business, or spreading your message and
Yeah.
getting on podcasts and stages and bringing the clients in and sharing your story and your vision. And other things will distract you from that. But it's so hard to trust ourselves enough to give ourselves permission to be the leader that we're meant to be.
Yeah. And I love that. I love the idea that, and I subscribe to the idea that the most important work of any leader in any business is to be clear on the vision and to be able to share the vision effectively. Um, Really, it's just getting everybody on board and aligned with what the vision is. If you can do that one thing as a leader, you're going to be successful as a leader. That's your number one most important job. Not doing the work, not getting into the code, not trying to manage people. It's setting the vision and empowering your team to help you accomplish that vision.
Mm-hmm. And that passes on to the customers as well. It's just as effective for the team as it
Yeah,
is for
absolutely.
the customers.
I agree
So
with that.
we have a couple of problems here. I think we can. So one problem is doing more equals more value, which is a certain insecurity. We either aren't trusting our teams, or maybe we're not even trusting ourselves enough to
Hmm.
turn off and to shut down, which is a big energy drain and a burnout. Um, the sporadic vision of just trying, it's almost like an attempt to do, we're like constantly in triage mode trying to fix things, and never really looking up out of the trenches of where
Yeah,
we're going.
working
Yeah.
in the business is what I would call that.
Yeah. And then what would be a third element, a third experience? We've touched on time. There's certainly finances here. um, I wonder if there's a way that how our team relates to us is even difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
Sporadic team. Okay. And then on the other end of this, doing less, if we were to translate these things, doing less is more, saving us time for diaper changes, clear vision, and how would we describe our team? Aligned team. And one of the biggest things I think is the systems actually support you. I've had a lot of experience in a lot of systems and a lot of software, and for many of my experiences are I sign up for a software and I'm like, whoa, this will be the magic bullet, and it just ends up adding a bunch more things, and
Yeah,
I implemented about 30% good, and just causes more confusion. And usually when I'm in that confusion, then I'm like, well, I probably need another piece of software to fix this or something.
yeah, yeah.
So supportive software.
Systems. Yeah,
Great. So let's we with this understanding of where our client is in this journey, I'm going to read some of these back to you, and we're going to use this as a way to create a lens for your own life and your own experiences and see what kinds of stories are present in your life that would resonate with this audience and attract
Sounds
them
great.
to you.
Yeah, awesome.
So, I imagine that there are many moments of this, and I can already see and feel your connection and your love for your family and your daughters being involved in
Mhm.
this. But can you think of a time when doing more was more valuable, when you're just constantly pushing, when you were in the trenches with your sporadic vision, just trying to piece everything together as you could? The team was going in every kind of direction. They maybe didn't trust you, they maybe didn't line up, and the software and systems that you had in your business were creating more confusion and work than they were solving.
I mean, I can think of a lot of times where that was the case. Yeah, in a software business, you're constantly challenged with building more features.
Mm,
Your customers are constantly asking for more features, more stuff. I want it to do this. I want it to do that too. So anytime you solve a problem with software, you're doing it with, a specific set of features that you organize in a way to solve the problem. But then the second you deliver that, inevitably, your customers begin asking for a bunch of adjacent features too. And so
wow.
it's almost an inevitable outcome as a software business that your software application will end up being very shallow and wide, um, versus narrow and deep.
Yeah,
And the
you're getting those
most impactful
Frankenstein.
software products are narrow and deep software products. But most software companies end up building shallow and wide. And we've been guilty of this here at Customer Hub because our customers are constantly asking for new things. And so it requires getting very clear on who you serve, the specific main problem that you are solving, and staying focused on solving that specific problem in better and better ways versus solving adjacent problems in
Absolutely.
addition to that initial problem.
Are you a coder? Are you software experienced?
I'm not a coder in terms of the back end code, but I do have web development expertise, and I have helped with front end development on our software in the past, as well as I have a
Okay.
product management background.
Yeah.
So it's easy for me, and actually necessary for me to get sucked down into the product management vortex in the business at times as
The
well.
vortex. Can you tell me about pulling an all-nighter in the project management
Oh,
vortex? Give me a real specific. It's Tuesday, January 23rd, 2016, and it's 3 in the morning, and this is going on.
well, I can. The challenge with talking about all nighters isn't to identify an all nighter; it's to pick out a specific one that I want to talk about. So,
This is, yeah, yeah.
probably
Any,
the funniest all nighter story was in our first run of doing Customer Hub. We had announced um, that we were going to be rolling out a new version of our software, with a new a new interface, a new admin console experience, and everything else. So basically, a brand new version of the software. We hadn't finished the work yet, and but we had an event. We began taking on registrations for the event, and we were, I don't know, probably a month or two out, and we were still working on stuff. And it came down to the day before the event, like we still weren't done. And the new software version was not even in a functioning state. And so um, we pulled an all nighter that night, the night before our event, just trying to get the software to a place where we could demo it at the event the next day without it breaking and exploding in front of everybody. And like we were, I remember being up on stage, like we didn't even have time to test everything. Like, so literally, like we had this software pulled up on the screen in front of probably 100 of our customers who had paid to be there. And we were teaching them a bunch of stuff in addition to showing the new software. But I remember pulling the software up on the screen and like clicking a button and like just praying that it didn't explode in front of our customers. Like really not knowing, like it was kind of like a coin toss. Like I'm going to push this button right now. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen or if what I want to happen is actually what's going to happen. And so, that was terrifying and it was a horrible
Perfect.
experience.
I believe you. It's a perfect experience for right now and delightful for this context. But that sounds maddening. Where was your family at this event? Did they come and see you? Were they around?
No, they weren't there. It was a local event, so it was in Scottsdale, and just me and my business partner and my team were out at the event that day, putting it on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, do you remember somewhere around that time an interaction with one of your daughters?
This was quite a number of years ago, so I don't specifically remember with that event, but I mean, I can name countless times
Yeah.
where um, like something was going on with the family, um,
Do you
my
remember a
kids
specific
having
quote?
events, whatever, lacrosse games,
Mm-hmm.
school events, whatever, like really just feeling terrible about having to prioritize work um, in certain situations where I couldn't be with
Yeah.
my family or at an important event that I wanted to be at. So lots of those.
And remind me, I think we discussed this after the call, but this was after you had created and sold a successful other software product that was integrated with Keep, right?
This was actually the story I just told you was actually that initial version of Custom Hub that we
Okay.
created pre selling it to Infusionsoft at the time. So that was a funny story from that time frame.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Good to know. Um, is there any other details that come to mind since we are immersed in this moment right here?
And are you specifically like
Something that has to
wanting?
do with a quote, maybe something a daughter said to you, your wife said to you, a smell, a sound, something that could bring us to this moment and immerse us with you.
I don't remember something specific from them. Maybe I should choose a more recent event.
That's okay. We have another place to go, and I know where we're going to go with this. We're going to go to the opposite end of the emotional spectrum right now. And since I've had the privilege of conversing with you and having a little bit of a glimpse into your life, I think that this might be the moment that counters this. A few weeks or months ago, you mentioned that you were in a cabin with your whole family,
Mm-hmm.
disconnecting and having a good time,
Yeah,
right? What
yeah.
was the best part about that vacation? The best moment, your favorite, sweetest moment from that vacation?
Wow. I mean, it was probably being able to just spend some one-on-one time with my wife.
Mm,
Honestly, like we've got three little ones. Like our lives are very busy. It's hard to find time to just be together. And like um, we we went on a hike up. It's called Old Bears Hump in Glacier National Park, and like you kind of climb up this. It's only a couple of miles, but it's you look off this cliff and it overlooks this little beautiful small mountain town in southern Alberta, Canada, and it's just super serene, um, like wide open skies, like just you could just feel the stress falling off of you. Like we were able to just kind of just be there together and like just be and like talk about our lives with our kids and our goals and some of the things that we were going to be doing in the future, and just spend that quality time together that was is really fleeting when you have little kids. You just it's hard to get that. And so that was a really memorable time.
Perfect. That's what I need. Are you ready to hear your story, Kyle?
Sure, let's do this.
My God, I hope this works. I'm getting up on stage in front of hundreds of my customers. They've been asking for new things, for software updates for a long time. And after many sleepless nights, many sprints, after all this, we've had months to prepare, and it feels like my team has been going in every kind of direction. My software has been going in every kind of direction. And every time I open up my emails, my customers are looking for something different. And somehow I have been making a Herculean effort to cram all of this together into what I feel like is a Frankenstein of the software that I set out to create. Every time I push the clicker on stage, I'm afraid that my software is going to blow up and explode. It felt like a coin toss or some kind of Russian roulette of business as I'm sharing all the products and features. And I'm just trying to keep a smile on my face and act like the leader that I think I should be, who has it all together, who knows what they're doing, who's leading their company. And I've never felt like more of a fraud standing in front of so many people. How in the world did I get here? This is exactly the opposite of what I wanted to create with Customer Hub. This is exactly the problem that I wanted to solve for so many people. And somehow I've found myself here. My vision is all over the place, my team's all over the place, and the systems that I've been building are not supporting me. And the only thing that I know how to do about this is work harder, push more, grind harder. And it's leading me to the point of burnout. I'm at a local event over the weekend. And while I'm on stage torturing myself with fear, I'm also missing out on the lacrosse games that my daughters are going to, school events. And I find myself even missing just being able to change diapers right now. My God, what I wouldn't give to just smell some poop right now. And it was in that moment that I realized that I needed to come back into alignment with myself, with my skills, and with my vision, and take Customer Hub to a place that I would serve and create the life that I wanted, and create something that would allow this same space and freedom and liberation of time for those that invested in this product. This took many years, many iterations, and let me tell you, friends, a lot of costly and painful mistakes. But we started to narrow down exactly what was necessary to create a software product that not only for me, but everyone that I worked with, that would free up time, that would allow me to be in my lane, creating and sharing and clarifying my vision, which was what my team needed. They needed something that they could line up behind. And it took a while, but we started to do it. We started to create this product, and I became in tune with my vision again to create this freedom. And I can remember being there and experiencing this beautiful, fleeting moment a few years later with my wife and my three little ones at a cabin near Glacier National Park. And my wife and I had this rare moment of going on a hike on our own and having some alone time from the chaos of raising kids and the chaos of growing a business, and sitting overlooking lakes, a small town across the border to Canada, and talking about our life and our vision for our future, being able to relate to each other and remembering what it was like when we first fell in love and set out on this journey together. And it's moments like that that I have dedicated my life to creating through Customer Hub. And in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this software will create that same freedom for you.
That's awesome, dude.
I hope that that's useful in this journey, and it deeply resonates with me, and it feels like something so universal that we are seeking and that you are building within your software.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that, man. Super aligned and resonated with me. Obviously, it was my story, but the way you said it was just really, um, really useful. I can see how being in the business of storytelling um, can create connection and just that authentic sharing of what I've been through and open and honest and real, like, can create empathy and just relation, a desire for people to be a part of it and to get that themselves as well. So yeah, I thought that was awesome.
I'm honored because I've over the few months of knowing with you, I've seen this possibility, I've seen this passion, and I see you as a family man first. And I am really honored at your willingness to come onto the show and play. And I hope that this story can be something useful for you in allowing many other mothers and fathers to have more time with their kids and their partners and enjoying a beautiful life.
I love that. Thank you, Kyle.
Absolutely. And on that note, where can we go to learn more about you? And do you have any closing thoughts for us today?
Uh, I'm available on all the common social media platforms, but you can learn more about us at customerhub.com. Um, and you can sign up for a free trial if you are ready to take that next step in creating more freedom in your business by productizing your expertise.
Brilliant, Kyle. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Story Engine podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kyle.